it's quite taxing when a very young person asks me, hey, I really want to get started on YouTube. Where do I start? And I always try to say with as much sincerity as I can muster, don't. And it's not to say don't start on YouTube. That's an incredible thing. But if I look at them and they're very young and I'm just like, go live your life. Go to college, go to community college. You don't even have to go to college. Go travel around. Go get lost in Europe. Go fall in love. Go get your heart broken. Go watch movies. Like, go do things that you can then put into your content.
You know, I think you're right. You bring up like the mental health side of it, where people are getting really emotionally exhausted, and physically exhausted, mentally exhausted. I mean, all the above, because in a way you're trying to run a production company or a TV program all by yourself that has much quicker turn than, I guess, traditional series or TV productions.
Man, oh man, yeah, and isn't that just the thing, and how that can bite someone. I had a friend the other day who ran a TikTok past me because, you know, among social media friends sometimes, oh, does this title work? Does this work? Does this work? They ran a TikTok past me that was like a very crass sort of like Dahmer joke based on the currency of it, and it was just one of those things to where I was like, I did tell him, I did tell them gently, like, hey, this is okay to not hop on this. You know, this is okay. I get it. It's a show right now. You want to hop on this, but I was like, let's breathe deep. Let's drop the shoulders. Is this what you want to put out there? Because I don't think it is. You know, it doesn't really work that well. So it is one of those things where that's what I kind of mean, is that person worrying about what was current, what was analytical, what was trending, what was this. It's like in that moment, I feel like that took the driver's seat. Yeah. More so than you wanting to create something because it wasn't great, you know. Especially when you think about it.
You're saying that sometimes people maybe lose their authenticity or lose oneself in the data?
I'm saying that unfortunately, I think a lot of people never give themselves a chance to find it. So I have a lot of young people.
I love that. Keep going. Please keep going.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of young people ask me. Well, not even just young people, a lot of people, but it's quite taxing when a very young person asks me, 14, 15, 16, you know, on the street or something, if they've seen what I do, even 20, point is they'll ask me, hey, I really want to get started on YouTube. Where do I start? And I always try to say with as much sincerity as I can muster, don't. And it's not to say don't start on YouTube. That's an incredible thing. But if I look at them and they're very young and I'm just like, go live your life. Go to college, go to community college. You don't even have to go to college. Go travel around. Go get lost in Europe. Go fall in love. Go get your heart broken. Go watch movies. Like, go do things that you can then put into your content. Because it's funny because people think that I'm overly cagey online. Like, I will disappear for 2-3 months, come back to the internet, post a video, and people are like, are you dead or alive, queen? I'm like, I'm just out there. You know, it's funny. I did say on a podcast once, so I'm not going to try to be insincere and make it sound like I just thought of this. But someone asked me on a podcast, they said, why are you so cagey on the internet? And I said, and I thought it was cool in the moment, but I was like, am I cagey on the internet or is everyone just way too present? I was like, who starts that precedent? Because you had a lot of YouTubers like early on that were like, I post every day. It's what I do. If I don't post every day, I'm going to be irrelevant, you know, that sort of thing. And there were thousands of YouTubers doing stuff like this. And they kind of set like a really, and inadvertently, it's fine. It's through no fault of their own. I think a very, very, very strange precedent was set for online people. And that's what I'm sort of talking about is you get these people who say, hey, I need to take a break from my mental health for a while, and you know, I see those posts sometimes and I go, hey, good for you. And then the next day it's like, hey, sorry, I know I said I was taking a break. I'll call those people and be like, hey, you need to come over for a little little drink in a fire pit moment because we need to talk. Because you need to actually take a break for a moment. So I guess when I rein myself in here, you know, when it comes to people creating, I just think it's super important in the creator space to, first of all, let people like you or their companies that you're working on handle that stuff as much as they can possibly let themselves, first of all. But secondly, just prioritize what you're saying on the internet, because there's definitely been times where I sit back and go, what are you doing, man? What are you saying right now? What's the point of this? Like, what are you fulfilling in other people's lives by making content? Because it can't just be because you want a new truck or you want to do this or you want to do that. That can start to take over in a really scary way sometimes. So yeah, I just start to go like, wait, what's cool? What's fun? What's going to make people enjoy themselves? What's going to make them forget about their bad day at work or, whatever. And that's kind of the place that I come from. I'm not trying to do anything too wildly vast or important on the internet. I'm trying to give people a really good time and a fun experience, sometimes a spooky experience are some of my favorites, and kind of make them explore their own curiosity, even if they might have forgotten it a little bit. Yeah. Sorry, I was just going on and on. Yeah.
You're obviously very purpose driven here, and you obviously really care about not just you and your audience, but all the other creators out there. But it seems like the purpose driven, like the vibe that I'm getting here is that you really want to make it so your viewers or audience get a mental break when watching your content.
I mean, I think that is truly why I make stuff at the end of the day. I mean, if there's a really just like brass tacks answer of like, why do you make things? It would be for that very reason. I try not to let another huge thing about being a creator that I try to talk to people about as often as possible is I love that phrase, what other people think about you is none of your business. And a lot of people think that applies to like the haters. No, the truly insidious thing is when people compliment you as well. You can't let that stuff in. You can passively see it and respect it and thank someone for saying something, and I do. I let it, get like 10% in like a nice way, but at the end of the day, you can't let that stuff in anymore because that leads to a lot of complacency and a lot of odd behaviors I've seen.
Like a God complex?
Yeah, something like that. Exactly. If you start to believe someone else's narrative of you too much, that can lead down a pretty dark road. In a lot of respects, not just on the internet. You got to kind of be in control of that. And I see a lot of people online start to believe people telling them that like, oh my God, you're the funniest person on the internet. You're genius. You're so great. And that's worse than like the sassy comments I've found is when you sort of see that look in the eyes of a content creator who starts to believe that stuff.
Awareness is important. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, whether it's your career or like you're in school or you're a creator, like understanding awareness of oneself is important because one, you won't be able to love yourself until you're very aware of it, and you should be both aware of your strengths and your weaknesses, and accept it, and also not self-deceive yourself through maybe, a lot of data coming from different angles, whether it's negative or too positive. I'm one of those people that am so egocentric. I try to act like I don't like the compliments, but it's like building me up. Like, oh yeah, like I am the best, and that's something that has to be placed in check because it will impact your relationships. It'll also impact, what you're able to accomplish in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Though sometimes we need that too. Believe me, there's compliments that people have told me that like I will take to the grave. Like they're just like absolutely like things that someone have told me that I'm just like I just need a moment with what you just told me because that's
and there's
really
negative
cool.
feedback. There's probably negative feedback that you receive that you also need to take it with you.
You know what? You'll kind of appreciate this though. So, yes, and I'm super open to that. Some of my favorite things on the internet is when I start to see like very vicious comments, and I mean needlessly vicious, like things I wouldn't say. And luckily, those are very rare for me. But the good news is that when you start to see those, that means that your stuff is like recommended and sort of like trending really well because they're coming from people that have no idea who you are. They don't even know the first letter of my name. Nothing. They just see like. They're just like trolly people who just want to be like, I can't even repeat it. But so whenever I start to see comments like that, obviously I mute them from the channel, but I'm also just like, all right.
That means my lining is know that you're getting traction.
Yeah, it's like the video is getting kicked around. It's not just in my community, which is great if it is. Because, you can tell when a video sort of like breaks through to like the people who are just know you. And then you can tell when a video is kind of like overflowing into like the other corners of the internet.
Yeah.
Which I always appreciate. I appreciate both. But man, it's
on a much smaller scale. I could relate to that on LinkedIn. So
interesting.
I've always tried to post things on LinkedIn, and whenever I get like this out of nowhere comment, I'm like, wait, where did this come from? Because like I only have like several thousand followers. I then look at my analytics like, oh, whoa, there's way more people that are viewing that are viewing this and engaging with this than the people that actually I know and I'm connected to. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is actually getting out there. So I guess that would make sense at a much bigger scale, like on TikTok or YouTube. If you're getting like comments that are just random or negative, obviously they're not your loyalists, but it's also showing it's getting traction.
Isn't that interesting?
Negative comments can be a great data point on if things are going more viral.
I suppose that's true. There's a silver lining to everything. Yeah, that's a funny thing. I feel like in the past year and a half, we have seen such an interesting change in social media platforms as to where it used to sort of be like us in charge, like what we curated, what we wanted to see, and then those things would get fed to us with like 20% kind of on the side of like, hey, and what about this? And now I feel like it's completely reversed to where it's like 80%, hey, what about this? And 20% like, this is what you want, right? Which is fine to a degree, and I know that's a very controversial thing to be like, that's fine, right? Like computers just kind of guessing what we want. But I don't know. I've got some wild opinions on that because they're so good at it sometimes. Yeah. Those computers or whatever, or those people behind it, rather, there's humans behind these intentions, are good at it sometimes to the point where I'm like, I mean, this is really funny. Thank you, algorithm. Or this is really relevant to me. Because that really blows my mind is sometimes when the algorithm feeds me something that like my spirit needs, like a video on an introspective, weird video that's just like very... oh, okay, thanks for seeing me and also like giving me a little digital hug tonight, so it's a wild thing.